Hello, welcome to Whittle Waffle. It's been a little while. I've been ill a lot the last few months and just haven't been wanting to sit down and chat with you. So there. Hello? Did you miss us? I missed you. I did. Just a word of warning. The cat has been fast asleep up until the minute I started setting up, and now he's running around like a loony, even though he never does that. He literally waits till I'm either on a Zoom call or recording, so no cat noise as yet, but beware. So my usual format, I say usual, we haven't done one of these for ages, and the last one was a special, is to talk about things what I've read / listened to, like audiobooks, things what I've watched, other nerdy stuff, and knitting at the end, knitting / spinning at the end for those of you non-knitter spinners who are not interested. So I see no need to change, so there we go. The first thing I want to talk about, because it's still January, is the fact that I set one of those Goodreads reading challenges every year, and this is the first year I failed. Mega loser. I was thinking I was 2 books short or something, and do you know, I'm really annoyed at how annoyed I found this. Alright, like really, it's not, I'm only challenging, there's the cat, I'm only challenging myself. It's not a competition, it's just a way to track what I've read really. And yet I felt like really, and then I was like, well, do you want to really set a challenge this year? And then I thought, yeah, I am going to do it again. I've set it for slightly less. Fucking cat, I swear to God. Get off. No. Why is that a thing? Why am I bothered? I shouldn't be bothered, but I was slightly bothered. Anyway, I think my reading challenge last year was 45 books. I mean, which is nothing compared to what I used to read. But I mean, these days just doesn't happen, and I failed. I think I've set this year's at 40, which is a reasonable. I'm trying to say, I've got it on my laptop here. It's an absolutely reasonable and absolutely doable amount of books. And I think what happened was I went over last year, so set it higher, and then I've come under this year. But it doesn't matter. I'm still reading. I'm still listening to books. It doesn't matter. It's not a competition. But I'm definitely going to beat me this year. Interestingly, I was just having a look at the books that I've read this year. The first and last book were both rereads of Terry Pratchett books. The first one was The Hogfather, and the last one was Equal Rites, which I just finished actually listening to. And they're re-releasing a lot of the Audible are re-releasing a lot of the Terry Pratchett's, only this time read by Indira Varma, I think she's called. Excellent nerdy actress from Luther, Torchwood, Game of Thrones, I think. Absolutely beautiful. Can't see her on the audiobook. She's a beautiful lady though. But anyway, she is absolutely outstanding and has gone up to joint favourite with Stephen Briggs and my favourite Pratchett authors. In fact, she does an absolutely amazing Granny Weatherwax. I'm not lying. She's great, really good. And the footnotes are read by Bill Nye. So, I mean, really enjoying that a lot. Now, it's interesting to read Equal Rites because I haven't read it for a long time, 20 years, possibly. I can't remember when it came out. I could look it up. I'm not gonna. But I haven't read it for a long time, and it was never a favourite, and I enjoyed it more reading it now. But like Granny Weatherwax, who's one of the main characters in it, isn't Granny Weatherwax. She's still sort of like in development. My eyes look like piss holes in the snow, don't they? Sorry about that. I have a 4-year-old. I don't sleep much. She's not Granny Weatherwax like fully. She's still being developed. There's no Nanny Og. you know. She's not living in Longcrest, she's living in Badass, which are very funny. But like, it's all just not quite there, but like most of us there. She's mostly granny, but she's not quite granny. And it's interesting from a like being a long-term fan and reading all of the books, and to go back and see how certain characters have developed and flourished and become more alive. Yeah, so it's interesting reading Equal Rites. And I'm not sure we ever see like or hear of the main character ever again, which is maybe it's a bit sad. But anyway, very much enjoyed the audiobook version of it with Indira Varma. I think that's her name. So they were the first and last books that I read. I was trying to think of what was the most outstanding. There's like last year, there's like a book I absolutely bloody loved, and I didn't have a book like that this year. There was not one like, oh my god, you have to read this. I have quite a few books that I enjoyed, but not like, oh my god, you have to read this. It's so good. I didn't have that book this year. I did finally read The Lord of the Rings, all of them. Oh, the last one's that's like wading through some serious misery. Like, it was tough, that last one. It was tough. What can you do? I did it. I felt like I deserved some kind of a medal, and I won't ever read it again. I know people who love Tolkien and they really, really love Tolkien. It was a challenge for me to read them, and I'm glad that I did, but it's not an experience that I'll ever be in a hurry to repeat. I'm just not, very uncultured, basic librarian bitch. What can I say? It's not for me. Parts of it I absolutely loved, and there was parts of it that I found a slog, and there were parts that I thought were cats. Get off. Oh, honest to God. Once more he's getting kicked. Not literally kicked, I just mean kicked out. Right, what else? I really enjoyed a book called A Narrow Door by Joanne Harris. It's part of a series, but I didn't know it was, so I read it, and it did work as a standalone book. But I really enjoyed it, but I can't rave about it, and I'm not sure if I've talked about it before, so I'm not going to. I am reading something else at the moment, but I'll talk about that when I talk about telly. And the only other thing I'm reading at the minute is what's it called? It's called A Billion Years, My Escape from a Life in the Highest Ranks of Scientology by Mike Rinder. And I'll talk more about that in the stuff that I've watched as well, because it links. So that's the things that I've read, sort of, and things that I'm reading. I haven't read a comic for a while. That's disappointing. I have just bought some, but I haven't read them yet. But I will. I bought some Batman. Can't remember which one. Don't ask us. It's upstairs. I'm not going upstairs. Right. Stuff that I've watched. I'm sorry I keep looking down, but I did have to make a list because I haven't slept much and I'm tired and my memory doesn't work properly, and I'm pretty sure I'm perimenopausal, so joy. You're welcome. No, I haven't. I'm not going to go back like since the last time I recorded and talk about everything I've watched, because we'll be here all day. So I've just picked some bits that I thought I'd talk about. Over the Christmas period, I did watch the Banshees of Inisherin, which is having its award season now, isn't it? And I really, really enjoyed it. It did make us cry quite a lot, actually. It's very funny in places, but I don't think it's a comedy, and I've heard people refer to it as that, but I didn't think it was. I don't know what you think. What do you think? It's beautiful to look at. The knitwear, my darlings. The knitwear. And I think all knit by some Irish lady in her 80s who's knit them based on designs by the costume designer. But how amazing is that? go knitting grannies. Yeah. So of course I googled it immediately. Who did the knitting? Can I get the pattern? There's some beautiful knitwear, which is in the entire point of the movie, isn't it? It's just the knitwear. Yeah, I found it like all of those films of that ilk, like in Bruges and stuff, is that yes, they're funny, but they're really sad and deep and speak about life and death and everything in between. And I'm so glad I watched it, and I think I'll watch it again, but I need a break first. It's fabulous. I don't know what else to say about it, really. I love how understated the main cast's performances are. They're quite subtle performances, apart from when they need to be bigger, and then even the bits where they're big, they're pulled back, and I think that's a absolute. It's part of what makes it some outlandish things that happen make sense, because I think men in that time, you're not allowed to really express your emotions, and you've got to pull it in, and that there was a real sort of statement about that. So yeah, their performances are amazing. There's not a single cast member who wasn't outstanding and who you didn't want to watch when they were on screen, even the less nice characters. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, it's on Disney Plus now, I think, and or other places, who knows. But I really enjoyed it. I watched over the Christmas period, I rewatched The 10th Kingdom. This was like a Sky production, and I think it's about 20 years old now. It's about that. And I mean, the cast is just stellar in this. Is Scott Cohen playing the big bad wolf, who's insanely sexy. I mean, insanely. I mean, Huff Puff. Indeed. John, I can never say his name. Larroquette. Is that it? Who I love. I think he's great. Diane Weist, who I think is one of the most beautiful women who've ever lived. She's in it. She's amazing. There's like, oh gosh, what's his name? Ed O'Neill, who is Al Bundy. Younger people may know him from that other thing, Modern Family or something. It's Al Bundy to me. He's in it as the Troll King. And then there's these little cameos by people like Jimmy Bloody Nail, man. Warwick Davies, I don't know that one either. Him whose name I never remember, who was Siegfried in the original All Creatures Great and Small, and he's been in everything British until he died. Him. Oh gosh, everybody's name's falling out my head now, but all these British actors that pop up that are like, oh, and Anne Margaret playing Cinderella. Joyful. It's an absolutely fantastic cast, and it's a blast. It's got that sort of slight hint of panto without it going there. It doesn't ever tip over that far, but it's so funny. Oh, Rutger Hauer, he's in it as well. It's just got this Sky did this at this point, doing these big multi-part epics, and it's implied at the end that it was going to be the first book of more stories from that world, and it never happened, and it's such a shame because it is wonderful. And the idea being that there's the 9 fairy tale kingdoms, where all of the stories that the Grimm brothers wrote were real, and they were trapped in one of those dimensions and came back and wrote all of those stories, and they're not really stories, they're the history of this place. And our world is the 10th kingdom, and it's called that the whole thing's called the 10th kingdom, but actually it's set in the 9 kingdoms. And it's just joyful, and I loved every second of rewatching it, and it's actually aged very well. It still looks great. Most of the effects look great. A lot of them are physical effects. A lot of them are just the landscape, which is mostly Scandinavian by the looks of it, and it's just wonderful. So I don't know how you can watch it. I have the DVDs, old school. So I watched it on that, and I just absolutely really enjoyed spending time with that again. I actually wrote a blog when it was 10 years old about it for the SFX website. I'll see if it's still alive on the internet. I'll see if I can find it and stick it in the description if I can. What else did I watch? Oh, so I don't know if last time I talked to you I was talking about that I've been watching the Blacklist. I'm up to series 8 now, and I have to be honest, mostly I watch it because of my serious middle-aged lady crush on James Spader. He's gorgeous. And he's so good in that. I love the Blacklist. And although it's my sister was telling she couldn't get past the first series because there's too many secrets that are not resolved, and that just annoyed her, and she had to give up watching it. I totally get that, because it is frustrating. It is frustrating when you think you're going to get an answer and then they knock it back again. And we're 8 series in now. Come on, give us something for hanging on in there. But yeah, again, great cast, great ensemble cast. Good stories. James fucking Spader. And at one point, I've got my arm out to stop the cat. I'm doing this. That's going to help. When I ran out of watching it, there's only a certain amount of series on Prime, and I ran out of Blacklists to watch. So I started watching Boston Legal on Disney Plus, that is, and I've watched all of that in a very, very, very stupidly short amount of time. I don't care what you think. Now, I have some problems with Boston Legal. It hasn't dated brilliantly well. Some of the attitudes are not ideal, particularly towards women. There's an episode where William Shatner, a fat man, gets a girl fired from his office because she's fat, and at no point did they point out that he's fat. This is not a diss, as he says. I like the chubbies. Take that which way you want. However, why did they say, well, you're fat? You're a fat man. I don't. Some of the attitudes to women are terrible. However, there's just something joyful about Boston Legal. There's something about that friendship with James Spader and William Shatner that is just beautiful and rarely seen on screen in any form. Now, don't come quoting Lethal Weapon or anything like that to me, because it's not the same. There's this closeness, this joy in spending time together, this ease with which they tell each other that they love each other and they care about each other. Sometimes get a little bit jealous of each other. It's just beautiful, and it's what makes that whole show work so well. It's just that relationship, and then everything else is lovely. So my camera cut out, and we'll try again. So what were we talking about? Boston Legal, yes. And so then I was talking about the friendship between James Spader and William Shatner, and there is a similar level of fantastic friendship between James Spader's character Red and Dembe in the Blacklist, and I just think it's fantastic. I just think we should see more of that. I think they get female friendships really well a lot of the time, but male friendships, yeah, I really like that, and obviously the connecting factor is James Spader, and who doesn't want more James Spader? Have I talked about everything I wanted to talk about? Oh, now I can't remember if it's in the bit that didn't record or not. I was talking about the Devil's Hour. I'll watch this back, and then if I haven't talked about the Devil's Hour, I'll talk about it next time. The other thing that I've been watching a lot of, if you don't know this about me, I have a thing about cults and reading stuff about cults and watching things about cults, and I've been watching The Vow. The second series of The Vow has just been out, which was really interesting actually, but I'm not going down that rabbit hole right now. My favourite of all the cults, because obviously I have favourite cults, is Scientology. I'm slightly obsessed with Scientology and how it gets people and how it keeps people and how people willingly live under awful conditions and why they would, and I find it all really, really fascinating. Anyway, I've read quite a lot on this subject. I've read Mark Headley's book Blown for Good, which is amazing. I've read Leah Remini's book about how she got out of Scientology, and I'm currently reading Mike Rinder's book. The other thing that I love to do is watch all about Scientology on YouTube. My favourite Scientology YouTubers are Aaron Smith-Levin or Levin Smith-Levin, whose channel is called Growing Up in Scientology and is brilliant. Like, he's my utter fave, along with Mark Headley, who has a channel called Blown for Good. And he's doing this really interesting thing where he got a hold of his Scientology file, and he's been going through bits of it about the level of like spying on him the day after he left. And I find it like madly interesting, like how people get in it, why they stay in it, like I say, what happens when they're there, like how do they cope with coming out and having to live a whole different life and sometimes without their family. And anyway, I find it madly interesting. So if you have any sort of interest in this crap that I am obsessed with, then I really recommend Growing Up in Scientology on YouTube and Blown for Good, which is not a naughty channel. It's a blown, apparently, is a term for running away from Scientology. They say you've blown, not any other form of safe for work. So yeah, so those are the things that I've been watching. Other nerdy stuff. Upcoming conventions. So I'm booked in for 2 conventions this year. Lawless will be first in May, which I'm very excited about. I absolutely loved it last year. I love that Sue let me be involved and help out and run panels, and I'm really hoping to do that again this year if she'll have us. I've been talking to her a little bit and getting really excited about it, and it's such a good convention. If you haven't been, it's a focus on British comics. Quite a big portion of that will be 2000 AD related, but not all of it. And it's very focused on the comics and small press. Lots of people get there's a big cosplay vibe, and those guys are amazing. And bring a sense of joy with them, which is just wonderful. And it's just a lovely couple of days, just a really lovely couple of days. So yeah, there's some great guests, which I should have looked up, but I haven't. You have to trust me. Great guests. Have a look at the website. So I'm not really looking forward to that. The other one is we will be going to For the Love of Horror again in October. It's November. It's November this time in Manchester, I think. So, as we know, not a massive horror fan, although I am learning and I am watching, and I've watched a few things and really enjoyed them. But they've got to have a particular flavour. Like, I'm never going to be one for watching like Saw or anything like that. But I did watch Dog Soldiers, which I absolutely loved. Like I could see my brother being in that film. He was a soldier for a long time. He's retired now. He's a pensioner. He's 44. Little shit. I could see him. I could see him and his friends in that movie. It's amazing. So I really, really loved that, and it's so funny. I also watched Fright Night, which I really liked as well. And my favourite was the American Werewolf in London, which I absolutely adored. I absolutely adored that. I thought it was brilliant. And it had Rick Mail in it. My Rick Mail. Oh. It's really a pervy vibe this time, isn't it? Is that different? It's just the same. Dirty old cow. Anyway, one of the biggest guests who've been announced so far for the Love of Horror is Chris Sarandon, who I am very excited to meet. Not really so much for Fright Night, although I did really enjoy Fright Night, but because of the Princess Bride. I have seen a little bit of whinging online about the fact that he is going to be behind a Perspex screen, and this does not bother me at all. Like, I just think, well, dude's in his 80s. Like, why would he risk picking up some of your germs that could actually kill him? Like, wouldn't you just rather meet him? Because I know I would. So yeah, so that's the thing. I'm not sure who else has been announced yet. There's some of the Blair Witch people, I think, and Tim from The Lost Boys will be there undoubtedly. And I can't remember who any of the other guests are, but Chris. That's nerdy stuff coming up. The other nerdy stuff coming up, and feels a bit strange talking about it, is that I have actually been dipping my toe into writing some comic strips, some comics, and they might be coming out soon, and I'm feeling really weird talking about it, so I'm going to stop, but I'll talk more about it if and when they ever see the light. And then I think I'll feel more real. It'll feel real once I've seen it, so we'll see. But that's an exciting thing. Really, really exciting, terrifying thing that I've been doing and really, really enjoying. So yeah, more about that hopefully next time. So what else? Knitting. I've been, and this is probably why I haven't met my reading challenge target or anything, is because I've just been knitting. Now, I did mention I've been quite ill. I got COVID in September, much like everybody else. Everybody else has their COVID war stories now. It was the first time I got it. I got over it. I immediately got a chest infection. I've now had 3 chest infections coming off the back of COVID, which I haven't had since I was a kid. I had childhood asthma. I had very bad childhood asthma, but then I haven't had any problems as an adult. And now I've had 3 chest infections. I've had a muscle caught in my back, and it all seems to have been post-COVID, and I'm still getting, you can probably hear it, I'm still getting over the last chest infection. So it's just been a joy, which means that I've watched an awful lot of YouTube and telly and knitted, basically, because it's all I've been able to do. So over Christmas, I haven't got any of these things to show you, but because they were gifts. So over Christmas, I knit 3 jumpers, 5 pairs of socks, 2 unarmoured defence cowls. I'll show you what one of those is in a minute. And some other bits and pieces I can't remember. Since Christmas, I am most of the way through another jumper. I've knit another 2 pairs of socks, and I've been spinning quite a lot. So let me tell you about the unarmoured defence cowl. So this is a pattern by Kat Weaver, who has a fantastic podcast or vlog, or whatever you want to call it, whatever we call in these things, on YouTube. And it's basically, it's a jumper but without any arms, and then this bit isn't attached, so it's like a big flap. So what I've been using it for is, it looks great with my leather jacket. So you just pop it on, and you've got a big snuggle and I get really hot, like of a certain age. I get really hot really easily and quickly. So sticking this on under my leather jacket means I'm like the perfect temperature, because my face and like my enormous chest is warm, but my arms aren't. So it's really helping us manage my temperature better than having a jumper on and then taking it off and taking it on, taking it on. Anyway, I'm in love with this. I knit a couple of them for my ladies who I go wild swimming with, because I thought they'd be great for when you get out of the sea to have that snuggle. I haven't worn mine for that yet, because like chest infections, no sea swimming. But this pattern is lovely. I love how the shoulders sit perfectly on your shoulder, and it's got a lovely little I-cord bind off, like cast off here, which I really like. In the pattern, this has got a slip stitch pattern, which will give you extra thickness and warmth, but I just wanted it plain, so I just knit it in stocking stitch. This lovely thing, oh, most people think I look better like this, but wasn't even an arse to knit, because it's quite thick. I knit it with Drops Alaska, which is a nice, very budget friendly wool, which I think is about £1.80, £2 for 50 grams. And I held it with a Hobby Yarns Diablo, I think it's called, as a mohair for an extra little bit of fuzz. And I love, I don't know if you can see how the colours have gone together. The mohair's like a slightly darker green, and the Alaska is like a mossy green. And I love this. I wear it all the time. I even wear it in the house, and then I took that into my dressing gown. It's so practical. I really, really, really love it. So I knit 3 of these, and I could quite possibly see myself knitting some more of those. And I got the pattern on Ravelry. But it's got some really lovely little details, like how they've got this garter band that comes down the side here, which just keeps everything looking really, really neat. And on both sides, and I just think it looks really pretty. It's a really thoughtful pattern. Like, as much as I pay attention to patterns, like there was a tubular cast on. I don't like doing tubular cast on, so I just did a long tail cast on. I might have done a Old Norwegian cast on for a bit of extra stretch. I can't. Yeah, I did do that. I did an Old Norwegian cast on for a little bit of extra stretch for it going over my gigantic head. And there's like a lovely, I haven't even ever like blocked this because I've just been wearing it straight away. There's a nice that 3-stitch garter panel stays down the side, and there's a lovely I-cord cast off, which makes it just so lovely and neat. It's a lovely pattern. It's a lovely pattern. And it's a fantastic podcast. If you're looking for a knitting podcast, she used to be called Heather and Hops on YouTube, but now she's just a cat weaver, her name, and she's a Dungeons and Dragons nerd. We like the nerds, as well as a knitter, and I really enjoy watching her. Nerdy knitters, we are the best. What else? Cat's lying on it. Can I just have that? Can I have it, sweetie? Thank you. I am knitting yet more socks. Fab. I don't know if you can see the fuzziness of these, because I'm knitting it with a mohair and a sort of a really kind of, it was a cheap sock yarn. It wasn't that cheap, was it? I can't remember. Anyway, no, it wasn't that cheap. It's not the one I'm thinking of. It's a nice one, and it's sort of self patterns a little bit, but which you lose completely with the mohair, which just makes it go all fuzzy and beautiful. And I knit some for Isabel and Amy for Christmas, and now these ones are going to be for me. And they're so nice to knit because it's so soft, and I love this colour. I'm not sure how much it loves me, but I love it. So both of these are are 4-ply weight, so knitting them together makes it about a DK weight. So I cast on about 48 stitches, and I knit some rib until I got bored, and then I knit some stocking stitch until I got bored, and then I did a heel flap and gusset. I love the word gusset. And see my heel turn, little heel cup. Heel turns are magic. And now I've just got to do the decreases and then onto the foot, and I'm enjoying that. That's going in my bag at the minute. Always got a sock in my bag. The other thing I did was I did a little bit of spinning. Cat's lying back on that immediately. So my aunt in the summer bought me a fleece. So I've been processing it myself, and it's the first time I've ever done it. So basically it comes like straight off this cheap filthy, full of bugs. I mean bugs, and all sorts of shit. Spinners call everything that's in a fleece VM for veggie matter. Some veggie matter is straw, some is shit, some is veal. It's not veggie anyway. So I cleaned it, I picked through it, I carded it, so it's two big that look like pet brushes, and combed it, formed that into rolags, which are little round pieces of fleece fibre, and then I spun them and then applied it, and this is one of the finished skeins, and it's a Jacob fleece, and I didn't do a brilliant job of separating the white and the brown. So this fleece is a mixture of white and brown fibre, and you can see there's like little flecks and bits where it's darker, but actually I really quite like that. This needs a bath, but it's I'm really pleased with my 2-ply there, and yeah, I've got tons of it. This is a massive project. I've done quite a few skeins of the brown, and they're lovely, so nice. This feels a little bit more rustic, but we'll see how it goes after a soaking. But it's coming along, and I've found in that I actually really do like the process. I love carding. It's very for your cross as well. Oh, great. So that's that. I also spun some this was a dyed fibre that I bought from the Wheel U. How cool is that? I love a pun. And I spun this and chain plied it, and then I've made it into socks for the husband, which are currently on his feet, so I can't show you them, but there are pictures of them on my Instagram at Whittle Waffle on Instagram if you're interested. You can have a look what it knit up as. But that was great fun. I enjoyed it. It doesn't have any nylon, and it's not superwash, so there is bamboo in it, and bamboo is really strong like silk, so I'm hoping that the bamboo in it will give it some strength. And I've knit the socks really at a tight gauge to make them like bulletproof. So hopefully that, like, the wear and tear in shoes and on feet, they won't get. The reason we put nylon in sock yarn is to make it more hard wearing. So this doesn't have any, so we'll see how it lasts and how it washes and how it does. But hand spun, hand knit socks. Getting a sock weight 3-ply as a spinner, I've found so difficult, and this, to get it finally, has made me so happy. It's like achievement unlocked, level up spinner. I can do a 3-ply sock weight. Yes, I can. I mean, it might be slightly on the thicker end of the sock weight spectrum, but it's still sock weight. After Christmas, I ordered some yarn. There was a sale on at Woolly Knits, and they sell a lot of coned yarn, which means yarn in a cone instead of yarn in a ball or in a skein on a cone. Now usually it works out as a good deal because you get more bang for your buck. Who's not a fan of that? So it can be like a good way to buy a lot of wool, especially if you're on a budget. I have a budget when it comes to wool because I am a nightmare. But I have a budget and I'm careful with it. This yarn was on sale for £10 a cone. I didn't read it properly. Now for £10 for a cone of yarn, I was expecting about 500 grams, which is what I've paid in the past for the same. It's a 4-ply thickness. So I ordered 2 of these cones. And when they turned up, they were in a huge cardboard box, which I'm not allowed because it's the cat's now. It's his. And he was saying, what have you ordered? I was like, I haven't fucking ordered anything. It's not me. But it was me. And what I hadn't read was that the cones were not 500 gram cones, as is sort of a standard. They were 1.6 kilogram cones of yarn. Oh, yeah, book. Bargain of the century. I'm going to be knitting this for the next 10 years. So I'm most of the way through a jumper. So I've knit the back, both fronts and half a sleeve, and it hasn't gone down. It hasn't even gone down. No, whole jumper, still almost all of the wool. I'm knitting it held together with, just because I didn't want to knit a full, it's very thin. And that would need to be knit on like very small needles, and I couldn't be bothered. So I'm holding it with a sock wool. This is Drops Flora, and I am knitting it for the husband. He wanted a cardie. This is the cardie. Sadly, this is not my husband. This is what it's going to look like when it's done. I found it really hard to find knitting patterns for men that were nice. And the downside about this one is it's knit in pieces, and I could have fannied on and done the math and knitted in the round, and I couldn't be bothered. I just wanted to pick it up and knit it, so I am knitting it in pieces. This is how it's looking, and actually I really like all of those little flecks, and I think that my yarn that I spun is going to end up having this same appearance with the little flecks and the slubby bits. This is the front, and I'm really enjoying how it feels when it's knitted up. This is the other front. Yeah, goes like this, and then the arm will go there, and then I'll pick up and knit a button band. I'm really enjoying knitting this. It's really lovely, and it's going super fast. And that was my big treat to myself, my ridiculous giant balls of yarn. The other one that I got, which is in the cat's box, which I daresn't touch because I rip my face off, is a more black, and I think I'm actually going to knit myself a dress out of that. There's a pattern called Cloud Bow, which you can knit as a top or as a dress. I have never knit a dress before, and I have feelings about it, about whether, I mean, I'm a fat lady, like that's a lot of knitting, but it's on big needles and it's very drapey, and I really want it. So I think that's going to be my next project. Don't hold your breath. So that's that. And the other thing I want to talk about is I've treated myself to a new interchangeable knitting set, and it's the Zing set. And the reason why I got this was because I got a long service award at work in December. I've worked at the same place for 20 years, and they gave me some vouchers, and I thought it's going to get just spent with all the Christmas stuff, which the majority of it did. And I thought, no, I want to buy one thing that I got with that. So that's a thing to keep, and I wanted it to be practical, and I wanted it to be something that I would use all the time. So I bought knitting needles because that seemed reasonable to me. I really prefer metal needles, and things are metal, and these are really nice. Their sizes are colour coordinated across the whole range, I think, because are they 2.25? 2.5? Oh no, they're not, because the 2.25 are gold, the 2.5 are red. Anyway, they are cut. They're each size is a different colour, and they go from, and that's 3.5 millimeters to 8 millimeters. Now, I hardly ever knit with fat needles, but these sizes and these ones I'm knitting with at the moment on something else. Don't know what that is. Can't remember. No, nothing. Can't remember. Anyway, they're really, really nice. I've knit with these ones already, and I've knit with these ones, and they're really nice. And they come with different size cords for knitting in the round, and everything fits nicely in here, and it's really good. I've shoved some extra things already in this pocket, like stitch markers and things that are handy. And this can just lives downstairs in the living room, and it's handy, and I'm really, really pleased with it. And it was not expensive. It was about interchangeable knitting needle sets are often very expensive, and they can run into hundreds of pounds. This was 35, I think, something like that. And I'm really, really pleased with it. And the cords are really nice, and they tighten really well, so no getting stitches trapped, which is frustrating. I think that's everything I want to talk to you about. I did want to, just in the knitting section here, to recommend a few knitting podcasts that I watch. I haven't done that for a while. I've already mentioned Cat Weaver, who I really like, and she's British, so it's quite nice. Although it does still use all the American terms for knitting, which almost all of the British podcasters do, which I find a little bit irritating, but what can you do? I will never call wool fingering unless I'm laughing. No. And stocking stitch rather than stockinette and things like that. Just, we all have things that irritate us, and American terminology and British things, it's one of mine. Now I've got a problem. If you're American and you're using that, it doesn't annoy us. So yes, that one. Wool Needle Hands, which is Taylor Earle, who is American, based in Nevada. Really, really like hers. Hers are short and snappy, so she does a short one during the week and about a half-hour podcast on a Sunday. So I really like that. I never watch them the day they come out, but that's that. And the other one, who is a big favourite, who I've been watching a long time, Shannon at Whiskey and Wool, who's in New Jersey and works at university, and I always she's a spinner as well, and that is a big bonus for me because there's so few other spinners, it seems, or other spinners making videos, and I really like having that connection. There's a new one that I've only just watched one episode of yet, and I really like too, and she's a hardcore spinner, and she's Starlight and Stitches or something like that, and lots of spinning content, which I really appreciate. So yeah, so there's some, if you like the knitting podcasts, vlogs or whatever, and you're looking for something new, you might not have heard of those. They're my current faves. I think that's it. The cat's been really well behaved, I'm very pleased to say, and it's nice to be doing this again. I'll see if I can stick the two parts of this video together, because I am not very good at the editing. I just like to record it all in one long gobful and then whack it up there. That's what I like to do. I'm not, aware of technology and shit. We'll see what happens. Hopefully this will make it. If not, you'll never know. I don't know why I mention it. Anyway, hopefully it'll not be so long before I do the next one. And take care. Keep nerdy. Bye bye.